to control other people, including yourself, transforming free people into whipped dogs. So that's just something I'd like to say about the morality of voting. I think it's basically immoral. But voting in the marketplace, voting by your actions, voting by your speech, that's a totally different thing. You're not using coercion with that type of vote.
Well, it is true that they just had a Hollywood star who was working for State Farm as a spokesman come out, and he said, you know, democracy always turns into fascism. And then they basically fired him as a spokesman. Well, he was basically quoting Thomas Jefferson, the two wolves and a sheep, you know, voting on what's for dinner. And that's the issue of a republic versus a democracy. But all republics end up degenerating into a democracy and then into a living hell, whatever name you want to give it, of a statist system. And clearly we've degenerated into a democracy now where 50+% can vote to literally enslave the producers and then tell us how immoral we are for building the civilization they inhabit. You know, like mind-scrambled gnomes complaining about the civilization that built, you know, the city they live in. Even though they've never seen who built the world they live on, they damn them for giving them oxygen to breathe.
Well, like Obama said, you didn't build that. Somebody else built it. He wants to make everybody feel like a parasite, which, in fact, he is. But I've got to say that the kind of people that go into government are not the best and the brightest, as they always like to say. They're the poorest and the worst kind of people. They're the problem is this, too. It's that the more of these parasites that go into government, the more likely that more parasites will go into government. And after a while, a decent person wouldn't even think of it. So you have this class of perfectly horrible people that have taken over all the power in society. It's and we've reached that stage right now.
And that's a cyclical fact, that once we reach the bottom of it, the veneer of civilization will burn away like a heat shield on re-entry to the atmosphere. What comes next after evil and control freaks have gotten control of every major system? Well,
one thing that I think is going to happen is that the idea of democracy is going to be debunked. It's like democracy has become a secular god in this country, where it's like mother and apple pie and democracy, but people don't really understand what they're talking about when they say that. Democracy, in effect, is nothing but mob rule dressed up in a sports coat. That's all it is. It's a lynch mob. It's 51% of the people get to turn the other 49% into sacrificial animals. So I'm not a fan of democracy. I'm a fan of freedom. And those two things should not be conflated.
Sure, and for those that don't know, we're supposedly a republic, which has laws that can't be violated to protect the individual, and then within a narrow spectrum, we can vote then for representatives and others. And clearly, government's been part of human development, but so often it is a destructive force, not a good force, and we know in its latter stages always becomes destructive. I mean, it's not like we're speculating here, Doug.
No, we're not, actually. And when we talk about laws, I mean, the most basic law of the land is the Constitution. There are problems with the Constitution, in my opinion, but I really am a big fan of the Bill of Rights. Unfortunately, the whole Constitution is a dead letter at this point. It has been interpreted out of existence.
That's right. By practice, they have overrun it and shredded it and destroyed it and used it for birdcage liner.
Exactly. And if at any point you bring up the Constitution as the basic law of the land, you're looked upon as being a dangerous radical. They'll call you a terrorist.
Imagine this. Though it's not perfect, some shield against rampant tyranny, and people giggle and disdain at it like it's intellectual to literally destroy their parachute. I mean, they're burning down their house, dancing on their graves, giggling at the folly.
Yeah, it really is quite disturbing. And, after the next real or imagined terrorist incident in this country, I wonder, Alex, if we'll even be able to talk on the airwaves and say these things. I wonder about that.
They openly say they want to shut us up. We're the bad people that talk about freedom and other dirty things.
Yeah.
Doug Casey's our guest. We're going to take 20 minutes of calls in the next hour. We're going to come back and go to Woody. And we're going to go to Phil and Isaiah and Ron and Ray and many others. I'm your host, Alex Jones. The news websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. You can see our latest articles up there. Libs claim using the term Obolo is racist. That's it. I'm doing an Obolo contest. Jesse Jackson says Dalit patients Ebola death due to racism. Yes.
This hour brought to you by InfidelBodyArmor.com. When it hits the fan, don't be left without the body armor that will save your life. With prices starting at just $374.99 and ships free. Get yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Just won't quit.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. SilverLungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at SilverLungs.com. That's SilverLungs.com.
DNA Force.
When cells become toxic, they die early and aging sets in.
DNA Force.
No one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. Just one of the key compounds, BioPQQ, is backed by major clinical studies.
DNA Force.
We now have the synergistic solution. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
DNA Force.
After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO, organic Super Male Vitality formula. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose.
I jump out of bed ready to fight these criminals every day. I look forward to waking up and taking my Super Male Vitality.
Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality and other powerful products from InfoWars Life.
Americans, prepare for financial ruin. That is what one of the world's richest men, Donald Trump, said just a few weeks ago. What are you doing to prepare? The problems that caused the last financial crisis were never fixed. In fact, they're even worse now. The total amount of debt in the U.S. has grown by more than 57% since September 2008. The too big to fail banks are much larger, and the massive derivatives bubble is spiraling so far out of control that the only thing left to do is watch the spectacular crash landing that is inevitably coming. If you're a baby boomer with retirement funds, it's time you consider exiting the Wall Street casino and start a cash-flowing international business of your own. There may be ways to preserve your wealth, but history has shown that few things can grow your wealth like having your own business. The crash is coming. Take measures now to soften the landing. Go to babyboomerBackupPlan.com or call 888-507-8789. That's babyboomerBackupPlan.com.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation. It's Alex Jones, only on the GCN Radio Network.
On PrisonPlanet.com and Infowars.com, these headlines really are incredible. Libs claim using the term Obolo, which I'm sure I didn't coin, but I thought of myself. Then I heard everybody else using it, and I don't think they got it from me. It's common sense, Obolo. I mean, it's not hard to come up with that. But Libs claim using the term Obolo is racist. No, he's leaving the borders wide open. They claim there's a government, but then they leave it wide open when they want because they're globalist. And then meanwhile, they're letting everybody fly in from these countries and everybody else is banned it. We're just pointing out that they want this crisis to obviously break loose here in the country. And then meanwhile, Jesse Jackson says Dallas patients, Ebola death due to racism. I mean, it's just everything. So that's some of the stories. Michael Savage was up yesterday. He breaks down the fact they want to cause a civil war in this country. Yoga Studio here in Austin, a big one, cancels costume party for Halloween after claims of racism because someone might come as something unauthorized. That is the type of issues. HHS Secretary says there may be other cases of Ebola in the U.S., like we need them to tell us that. Continuing, how to exercise your rights at an unconstitutional checkpoint. Powerful video on that. That's some of the stories up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Doug Casey's with us 20 minutes to the next hour. We got calls for him. Let's go to Washington State and Woody. Woody, you're on the air. Go ahead. You got a question or comment for Doug Casey?
Yes, Alex, I do. Mr. Casey, I believe Russia is much stronger economically and militarily and actually culturally than the United States right now. And I believe we're on a collision course deliberately to take us into World War III. And I'd like to know what events you see Russia taking on a proactive level as far as our economy, because we are vulnerable there, if that was to happen.
Well, that's a good question. I don't think that Russia is stronger economically, militarily, than the U.S. The country has half the population that we do, and the economic system there is not very entrepreneurial at all.
But they're not focusing on teaching 5-year-old boys how to wear dresses. So I think culturally he's saying that it's hard to believe that Russia in some ways is more Western or less mentally ill than we are now.
Well, there's something to be said for that. And the leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin, is actually a manly man. He's not a wimpy little girly man like our president is. I hope somebody doesn't accuse me of racism because I called Obama a wimpy little girly man.
I mean, actually, sacrilege and blasphemy. He's a god. You didn't hear Jamie Foxx say that he's the Lord and Savior?
No, did he really? I'm so sorry to hear that. I like Jamie Foxx as an actor, but of course, just because you like somebody's technical skills on the screen doesn't mean that you endorse their political and philosophical views. But to answer the question, it's that, no, I don't think Russia is a threat. And actually, when it comes to this dust-up in the Ukraine, I really think that the U.S. is the troublemaker there and is causing the problem, not the Russians. I mean, the Ukraine isn't a real country to start with. It's kind of like an area where most of the people speak Ukrainian as opposed to Russian or several other languages. So it's natural enough that the people on the western borders of the Ukraine and those two provinces want to be closer to the Russians. And the Russians like that because it's nice to have a borderline.
But you do have an article at KCResearch.com that I want to get into when we come back, and we'll go back to calls. The Russian Empire Strikes Back. I want to see where you see this going long term, straight ahead with Doug Casey of KCResearch.com. I'm Alex Jones of Infowars.com. Be sure and follow us on Twitter at RealAlexJones. And we've got a bunch of powerful articles that are very important up on Infowars.com. We'll be right back with the third hour in 60 seconds.
This is GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
The government's Department of Homeland Security is buying up loads of ammo. At the same time, they're restricting civilians' rights to own and purchase firearms. Can you put two and two together? Infidel Body Armor can stop every round, including hollow points and .308 sniper rounds. Is reasonably priced and fully legal. But for how long? Go to InfidelBodyArmor.com, spelled INFIDEL bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor. Just won't quit.
DNA Force.
When cells become toxic, they die early and aging sets in.
DNA Force.
No one has put together a formula that focuses directly on brain health, nerve growth factors, and optimizing your cellular energy at the same time. Just one of the key compounds, BioPQQ, is backed by major clinical studies.
DNA Force.
We now have the synergistic solution. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
DNA Force.